Hey everybody, I am Rev Skip Chinnings.
And I am Terry Dyer.
What is this? What are we doing?
What are we
What are we
doing?
doing?
Are we doing this? Welcome to Grits and Glitter podcast,
It's
y'all.
for real. For
Uh,
real. It's happening. How you
episode one.
Episode one of many, many episodes. How you doing?
I am good. Today's been a good day. How are you, brother?
I am good. It feels good to be on the mic with you, man.
Yes, yes. We've been live in living color with people so far,
Right,
right? But
right,
it's nice
right.
to finally be on the recording finally, right?
And traveling, we were in San Francisco, and you did a show. Brother,
Yeah.
I didn't know you could sing like that. I knew you could sing, but I didn't know you could sing.
Dang, he went to school for that, got a
I
degree.
love it. I love it. One of the things I love about when we get together, we do not have a lack for words. We are always,
Sometimes it's like too much. Rein it in,
I
child.
know,
Rein it in.
rein it in. Let's land the plane.
Right.
So it's probably a natural progression for us to be doing a podcast.
Yes, it
How do you
really
feel
is.
about this?
We've done a tremendous amount of work together in the last year. We've done some planning council work for South Florida. We've done some
Yes.
events. We have done our article, which we're so excited about, and we'll get into that in a moment. But it makes sense that we're finally doing a podcast and taking it to the streets, if you will, right? I'm excited about that.
I am too. And, you being an author and me being an author, writing books and come together, I think these topics are going to come from a place of our own experience and giving voice to, the Black queer folks that's out there. But the podcast is not for Black queer folks. It's just our aspect, I would say, where we're coming from, our point of view. But this podcast is going to be for everyone.
It really is. And I think it's such an important platform for us to continue to raise awareness, to bring more
Yes.
representation, to amplify Black LGBTQ voices, to make this a part of everyday conversation, everyday life. Like we're here, we're queer, we belong. We're going to talk a lot about that. And
Yes.
our authentic selves throughout this process, I think is incredibly important.
So I know you're an activist, but our listeners probably don't know. How did you get into this type of work? And what was the thing that brought you into this field of activism?
So I love telling this story. This was in San Francisco way back, and date myself a little bit. I'm not old though, y'all. Don't be doing me like that. No, way back in 2007, 2008, I worked for a huge global organization that was in staffing and recruiting. And I went to a new potential client, Stop AIDS Project in San Francisco. Shout out. Unfortunately, they're no longer around, but shout out to all the folks that used to do a tremendous amount of community advocacy work. And in my conversation with the previous executive director, who became sort of a confidant for me. He became an idol for me and somebody that I looked up to understand what it meant to be a young
Mm.
Black gay professional. In my late 20s, I didn't have a clue. I was all over the map. Oh,
Well, who does? Who has a clue in
right.
the late 20s? Come on now.
No clue at all. And
Yes.
so in a meeting one day, we're talking about how I'm going to help bring, more folks, hire more folks for his organization. He says to me, "Hey, I got a question for you. Have you ever thought about, working in nonprofit?" And I was like, "No, man, that don't pay. I like you, but that don't pay the bills." And
Right,
I
right.
try to make coins as a young professional, right? And
Yes.
so he said, "You and I have been talking a lot about," because I was still fairly new to San Francisco. And he said, "You and I have kind of had some conversations about, Black gay community and about the LGBTQ and about testing and HIV and all these different things."
Mhm.
He said, I we have this role open to run a program specifically for Black same gender loving men in the entire Bay Area. So not just San Francisco,
Mm.
but all over the Bay Area." And he said,
Yeah.
you really might want to think about, I know you love what you're doing and we like having you as a partner, but think about this, man. 2 weeks later, I resigned from my job and I
And you were
started
in.
that nonprofit journey. I
You were
really did. And
in.
I cannot begin to tell you the level of growth and connecting with people that looked like me. I'd never
Yeah.
done that before.
Yeah.
Never, ever done that before. And when I tell you that the Black LGBTQ same gender loving community in the Bay Area, they let me have it. They said, no, 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 boo, come on over here. This is not how we work. So
Right, 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 right.
I'm grateful. That's how I got started. And
All
I
right on.
not look back and never
Not
look back.
look back, not
Yeah.
look back at all. So, wow,
Yeah.
that's a journey.
How about you? How about you? How did you get started in coming to
Ooh,
the space of discovery and growth and being that person for everybody else to
I
get their inspiration
know.
from,
Well,
their guidance from? How'd you start?
my grandmother once said to my mother, I was like 1 year old, said, that boy's so bad, he's going to be a preacher. So I always knew that that was going to be the journey. I always felt it. And I would say probably maybe about 30 years ago, I really started pursuing becoming a minister and wanting to be a minister of inclusivity. I wanted to be completely out and proud of it and just be who I am because I believe our community has been marginalized from churches. And I saw a need where I was called forth to be a minister for, not just for the queer people, but for everybody. But that's a part of inclusivity. And that has always been my intention. And it happened in LA when I was going to the Agape International Spiritual Center. Shout out to my Agape family. And I just fell in love with the teachings through Michael Beckwith. And, I just really found a home where it was all about loving spirit, loving God, no matter who you are. And so that was my pathway, which eventually I was recruited to come out to Florida. That's where we both are here in Fort Lauderdale. And, it's still part of who I am, but it's only a little bit of who I am. So I'm learning in this process of really finding myself in a new version of who Rev Skip is, or Skip, or whatever you want to call me. So I love this journey. I love what we're doing. We're making a difference.
Absolutely. So often we are told that, well, who's going to listen to us
Yeah.
and who are we to think that we can inspire and motivate and things like that. And I say this, especially after my first book came out, I say this all the time to people. We all have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
All have a story to tell. And I feel like that's how we are going to be able to move forward as a society, is really just sharing experiences, sharing knowledge, really connecting. We've lost sort of
Yes.
that essence of humanity to connect with each other and learn from different backgrounds and experiences and things like that. And I don't want to start preaching,
Yo,
but
but I got a question to ask you. Have
yeah.
you heard people say to you, everybody has a podcast? Why podcast? Why? And I love what you just said. Everybody has a story, and I believe that everyone gets the chance to tell their story. But I believe that this is a avenue where this podcast stuff really became. I've been doing podcasting since the early 90s, back in the day when you called up Blog Talk Radio. Remember, you had to call on the phone. I'm talking about way
Y'all.
back
He's
then.
aging himself, y'all.
I'm so aging myself, but I still look good. You better believe
Hello,
that.
hello.
It's so funny. We're talking to someone that said, black don't crack. And I said, but it droops sometimes, but I'm not drooping. I'm not drooping. But, I believe that this is the vehicle where we can tell our stories. We can be the light and the hope for someone and people who are wanting to know what we're all about here at Grits and Glitter. And that's grits with a Z.
Gotta be a little
And
different.
what we're doing,
It's gotta be a little different now. I have been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of months as you and I have been doing
Yeah.
collaborative work, and people have asked, well, what's going to make your podcast different? And I actually really do like how people's face responds to not necessarily their words, but how their face responds when I say, oh, we're starting a podcast. They're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
right.
everybody got a podcast these days.
Right. They're like, okay, girl, okay, okay. But what I love the most is in talking about what's going to set our podcast apart, and there's other folks that are doing, other Black LGBTQ folks that are doing, podcasts and things like that. Shout out to them. And I love everybody's platform. I love the ones that I'm, listening to and supporting. We're just bringing a different perspective, right?
And we're allowed to.
Yes. Yes. Podcast came all the way live, during COVID. Everybody's like, I got to make some coins. I got to make some money,
Yeah.
right? We can't see
But
each other in person, so let me do this podcast thing. I didn't get into it then, but I feel like we've had so many kind of spring up that
right,
everybody can do it and share their ministry. They can share
yeah,
their experiences. They can connect with audiences. They can just really bring more voices, right,
yeah, we
especially
love
in
that.
LGBTQ spaces. So here we
And
are.
the other thing too is you wrote a book and I wrote a book in the pandemic. I mean, my last book, little book for big transformation, I wrote in the pandemic, and some people say we're still in the pandemic because it's still like we're still dealing with it. But in the height of it, when it began, when did you drop your book? When did you write your book?
I'll never forget the date. My book came out, a debut, July 15th of 2020. And I will toot my own horn, toot be
Please.
because it was the pandemic and I wasn't working. I'd moved here from California,
What's
and
the name of the book?
millions of people, I got laid off. So I said, I started a project 5 years ago. I need
Yeah.
to finish. Let's go back and finish that project. So I worked 8, 9 hours a day
Mhm.
to learn how to promote it, learn how to get it into spaces where other folks could benefit from it. And when I tell you, when I saw that it debuted on Amazon at number one in
Yes.
6 categories, I said, hey, now we got something to say. I will say this too, because this came up a lot when my book came out. Is people said, "How in the world did you plan it at the same time of Black Lives Matter movement?"
Yeah.
I said, "I wish I
Yeah.
could take credit for that, right? Like
No,
it's
it's all God over that. That's all God. What's
absolutely,
the name of the book?
but it's time.
Terry, what's the
My
name of the
book,
book?
my book is called "Letters to a Gay Black Boy."
What? You gay?
I mean, once in a while, I'm gay where it counts, and I'm gay.
you know.
Yeah.
You know. I
Yes.
love it.
Yes, and excited to announce, although we've been talking about it a little bit,
Yeah.
in different publications and so forth, we are in the process of doing what?
The sequel.
The sequel. We are in
the
the
next.
process of co-authoring book number 6.
Yes.
I'm so excited that you're joining me for that journey too.
I'm very, very excited about that. So, but in this podcast, we're going to break it down. We have segments, and I'm really loving the segments. We have a segment, we're going to talk about the things that people need to hear about, like, did you know? And then we're going to take it into the grits, which is kind of the deep dive into who we are and our focus and what we're doing. And then after that, we're going to do the glitter, which is the fun stuff. It's just,
Absolutely.
what is it? Entertainment, love,
That's our
fun.
entertainment tonight. That's ours, right?
And we want to be able to let people know who's making a difference out there in the world. And so, wow, we will give you appetizers. We're going to give you a little bit of,
Course
entrees.
meal, then we'll come back with some dessert. We gonna serve the
I
people.
love it. I love it. All right. So let's head into our first segment called Did You Know? And this is the time where we just get to educate each other and tell me something I don't know.
Listen, you
But
know a lot, so I don't know how I'm gonna.
listen.
So this happened,
Yes.
and I'm so incredibly excited about this specifically because we both are in, the state of Florida. This
Yep.
was a major thing in our society and in the United States, as our good old governor,
You know.
banned "Don't Say Gay," right? So that was overturned in the state of Florida. Agreed to a settlement in the month of March that essentially clarifies the reach of the legislation, which prohibits instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through the 8th grade.
Wow, that's huge because people don't understand that we've been in the midst of the battle here in Florida, and we have been in the places where we have even questioned, are we allowed to say this? Are we allowed to speak this in public with kids around, and especially being in churches? Me as a minister, at the time, I was a senior minister at the Center for Spiritual Living, and we even questioned in our Sunday school, will that actually carry over into all aspects? So that's huge. That's
It
huge.
It is huge, and I think it also turned into drag queens being able to perform publicly where children were. We would do events, huge events in this community, Stonewall Pride, all these different things. and we couldn't have drag queens out on the
Yeah.
streets walking and
Yeah.
performing and all these sorts of things. And it just turned into such a monumental moment in our
Hmm.
society and in our communities. We can't say the word gay. You know,
Yeah.
teachers that are LGBTQ, not being able to say that. My biggest thing is, and I used to teach and guest lecture in the San Francisco Unified School District many years ago, and you know, that was such a huge thing talking about inclusivity, because you never knew what teenager was going through and battling with their own stuff, right? So here in the
Yeah.
state of Florida, if a child had a moment where they said, I can't talk to my parents about this, who do I talk to? Do I tell the teacher I have two dads? Do I tell the teacher I'm questioning? What does this mean
Yeah.
for me?
Yeah.
Where did they go to? And then you basically put these restraints on a teacher. You can't talk about it.
Right.
What does that mean for our
Yeah.
children?
Yeah. And two, it also sends a message to younger kids that we don't matter. And if we can't talk about our parents, and they might have two daddies or two mommies, that the family structure that we are in the midst of doesn't matter. And part of this movement, I always felt, and I moved here just at the beginning of Don't Say Gay,
Yeah.
where I felt like, are they trying to erase us? Are they trying to put us back in the closet or take us completely out here in Florida or over the world? It's very, very interesting.
You know, I battle with that all the time, and I
Yeah.
use those terms all the time. We're
Mhm.
constantly treated like second class citizens, right? I know the LGBTQ, people of color, the Black community. You know, we talk about oppression a lot,
Yeah.
and LGBTQ folks are an oppressed people,
Hmm.
right? And we're constantly having to battle for our rights, our human rights, right?
Mm,
To love whomever we want, to say and do and act. And you know, I always say too, especially when I'm having conversations with heterosexual folks, why in the world would you think that gay people would want to get married to only do what? Get divorced like you? Like we have the highest rates of divorce rates in the United States, right?
yes.
So we're not trying to get married just to get divorced like you, right? This isn't a business transaction and you know we get half and all that. That's not what we're trying to do, right?
Right.
We're just trying to be on equal playing field like the rest of y'all.
Well, here's the thing too. I always look at this is whenever we bring this idea of equality to straight people and who have a problem with equality, it's like they feel like we're taking something away from them. And so we have to go deeper in this idea of equality means we all have the same rights to do the same exact thing. That's all we're asking. We're not asking to rise up above you. We're not asking, to do anything different than what you're doing. And I
Absolutely.
believe that this is part of the conversation, the bigger conversation. But this is huge. This is huge. We can say gay, 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 gay.
All up and down the street,
All up
right?
and down.
Yeah, yeah.
But what about the drag queens that, in our community that couldn't do the drag shows? For me, I'm like, y'all, the queens are bringing the light, the love, the
Yes,
excitement. These
yes.
kids need to see that.
Also, drag queens bring, there's so much, right, that drag queens bring. They're bringing a sense of community, they're bringing a sense of support, they're bringing a sense of, doing fundraisers all the time to help support nonprofit organizations, to help support youth and the resources that they need, right? Those to me are things that we forget about a lot of the times because we
Absolutely.
constantly just think, oh, drag queens, it's the alcohol, it's the liquor, it's the entertainment, it's that. There's so much more,
So much more.
so much more
So
to
much
drag
more. Oh
queens
my
too, right?
goodness.
Drag queens were around during the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. They
Before
took care of
then.
our sick people, right? They were on the front lines marching for equality and rights and the Stonewall riots. We can't erase what they do
No,
for
no,
the
no, no.
people,
And
right?
and 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 so we have to understand too that it was the drag queens that actually pushed the gay liberation front
Absolutely.
into what we know today as Pride.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but I have a
Now,
did you know? I have a did you know? Oh, you got one more thing? Oh,
yeah, so
go,
here's what's
please.
also funny. Here's what's also funny about what you just said,
Okay.
right?
Well,
Because you brought up pride. Here's what's funny to me,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And listen, I'm gonna put a disclaimer out there. This
Okay.
podcast, we're gonna talk about everything under
Everything.
the sun, right? Some things you might agree with, some things you might not agree with, and that's okay because this is what we're about. We have conversations. We're not all the
Absolutely.
same. We're not all
Right.
gonna think the same and have the same perspectives, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's put these things on the table in order to really dive deep and
Yes.
figure out these differences and how
Okay.
we
Let's
move
do
past,
it.
right? Right.
Let's do it.
So turn your TVs if you're your radio if you don't like what we're saying, right? No, but we want everyone's opinion. But I'm saying
Absolutely.
that to
Please.
say that we talk about pride and bring up pride a lot. Now, here's what's interesting to me. At these prides, and I've been at prides in all over the state of California. I've been in prides in different countries. I've been in prides here, obviously in South Florida. We love to celebrate, right? The
Mm,
heterosexuals love to come to pride and dress up, right? And be a part of the action and the excitement. They love to have the cocktails like we do. They love their freebies from the tables and the people that are participating. They love all of that.
yes.
They love all of that. They want to be a part of that. But when it comes down to it, these are also the same people that are going back and voting against our rights, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's our
There you
first
have it.
episode. We want to really go there in the first episode. But I'm saying that to say that
Yeah.
that we really got to think about, the level of heterosexuals coming into the spaces of LGBTQ folks and being a
Yes.
part of that. And we want you there. We want you there.
Everyone wants to have a party. Everybody wants a party. So, but okay. So my did you know? I don't know if you are into the polls because we are. Hello. Spoiler alert. We are in an election time right now. So this is election season, and number one, I'm so sick of those texts. And I don't even live in California. I'm getting texts from politicians in California, and I'm here in Florida because what anyway.
Yep.
But how do you feel about the polls? Because I am kind of a little bit of a political junkie, and it's reading right now that Biden, or actually Trump, is beating Biden in all the battle states. The polls are saying now. Everyone says, "Well, you can't listen to the polls." Some people say, "Listen to the polls." Some people say, the polls don't mean nothing. As it comes down to that last day. I'm going, okay, but it does give a little bit of information that if they're polling people in the battle states and Trump is leading number one, I don't understand that. And y'all probably know who I'm going to be voting for anyway. But I also know I see this idea of why that is happening. And I still in disbelief because you have either Trump or you have granddad. I don't know. And that's the way I see it sometimes. I look at it going, oh, we have this man here or we have this man here.
He
But
look like he gonna fall over every time.
I know, and that's the thing,
Uh,
I watched the State of the Union, and every time he coughed, I went, "Oh Lord, don't no 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 don't cough anymore." I feel like okay, my granddad's up there,
yeah.
but how do you feel about the polls?
So I will just say, I am not a political aficionado. That is not my
That's not
brand.
your
It's not, but and here's what's funny. Growing up, like I did a lot of political things, right? Like I
right.
ran for student government. I was, held offices in student body in high school. In college, I was involved, in student body and things like that. But I don't consider myself a political person. I vote. Hello, gotta vote, y'all.
You got to vote. You got to
Vote
vote.
and do all of that. But here's what I will say. This is my thing. And it's only been within the last year that I can say that man's name. Before I used to just refer to him as Cheeto. Hello. He was Cheeto to me all the time. All the time. But
Oh
now,
my.
right. So here's what I think. Here's what gets me. We as a society are putting this man, he's leading in the polls while he's being indicted
Yes.
while he is doing clearly has been, and I know he hasn't been convicted officially and all that kind of stuff, but he's been indicted, people, right? But we are saying that we are still going to support someone who has clearly done illegal things in so many facets we're still going to put this man to run what's supposed to be the most powerful nation in the
That says a
world.
lot about us. It says a lot about
does.
us.
It absolutely does say a lot about us. Now listen. So I know. If y'all haven't figured out by now, I am the glitter of the podcast.
Are you really? Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
He likes a little flash every now and then. Here's what gets me, and I heard this, and I'll shout out to him. My brother says this all the time. It's those that are in what I like to call Middle Earth, Middle America, right? That's continuing to support this man, right?
Sure.
That it's those that are in these rural places that are continuing to put this man, on a pedestal, regardless of what he's done, illegally, regardless of January 6th, regardless of all these things that he's incited, the comments that he's made about women, LGBTQ, Black, Hispanic, regardless of all that, we're still going to support him. I don't understand.
Well, let's say, and I'm okay with saying they're going to support them,
right?
Him, because I'm okay with, yes. How do you feel as a Black man, a Black queer man in America, in Florida, in Trump land, when you know that this is the person that is leading and possibly a good chance that you could be elected? I dare say it. How does that make you feel as a Black man?
I believe in manifesting everything. I'm not trying to manifest this man into office, but let's be real and call a spade a spade. He's getting ready to win again. It's going to happen. And I think this is our reality. And I think we need to start arming ourselves to protect ourselves with what he's about to do. He gonna come in guns a-blazing. He mad.
Yeah, well, he's already said he would anyway, and that's a scary part about his the way he's going to come in there and in his revenge politics. He's already saying revenge politics. But my thing here of what I am more concerned about is that can we do a U-turn from where we're going? Because this is a reactionary to Obama. This is the reactionary of Obama. So what did we have after Obama? We had Trump. And then after Trump, we have Biden. So can we get back or in the direction that we're all welcome to the table? Because I felt that that's where we were going when Obama was there. And I know some things that I didn't agree with what Obama did, but I felt we were moving in the right direction. Now I'm going, well, what the heck? What the heck? Where are we going?
Many steps backwards as a society in history. I mean, overturning Roe versus Wade. What in the world are we thinking?
But that might just help. Rachel Maddow says that I love me some Rachel. I love Rachel Maddow. And she said the other night that this is where women are actually going to come to the polls and they're going to this is going to be on the ballot. So it's going to be a spark to get people to get out there I hope so. I hope so. I'm just going to keep praying. I'll keep praying.
If that man gets elected and gets what he wants and continues to move the way that he likes to move, and then people on his side to move the way that he likes to move, we are in a world of hurt. One thing that I refuse to do is give up hope. But I'm also a realist, right?
You're a realist. I get it.
Call a spade and say, okay, so if this is what is going to happen, what's our plan? What is plan B? and listen, again, not in a political person, but these Democrats, honey, sometimes you got to fight fire.
Actually, you are a political person. You out there just by being who you are is politics. I mean, come on.
That's true.
So... But this is the segment which I love. It's called the Grits, and I am the Grits of this duo here because you're the glitter. But the Grits is the topic that we're choosing to really spend some time talking about, and this is about our article that it will be coming out probably the same time this episode's coming out. And I love this article that we're writing on right now, and it's very powerful. This article that we wrote is about inclusivity. and about this road to inclusivity and what we are doing in this direction. So I am pulling out my notes right now, and it is, we call it this, the essence of diversity and inclusivity, a journey towards empowerment and understanding. What do you believe the essence of inclusivity, diversity, equality? You've been doing a lot of this work. What is the essence of that?
Man, listen, you're gonna have to cut me off in this segment because I
Okay,
can
that's okay.
I can talk about diversity and inclusivity so much. And for me, it's not, we can't just be like, oh, let me just be a part of it and check the box, because every few years, and this is again just our opinions, we're not speaking on behalf of all the Black people, we are not
No,
speaking on behalf of all the LGBTQ people. This is just from our experiences and from our perspectives.
right.
We, every few years, in my opinion, as a society, we tend to have something catastrophic that happens in our society. Murders, right? In 2020, it was George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and before that, it was Trayvon Martin here in the state of Florida, right? We've had so much happen over the last 3 to 4 to 5 years. But here's what I find very fascinating.
What's that?
Not the first time, y'all. This ain't the first time, right? So we got all hoorah and rah-rah and Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff in 2020
Right.
because social media sensationalized, what was happening. And we need that. Don't get me wrong. We need that. We need to be bringing attention and awareness to what's happening in our society. But let's be real. This happens every few years. Somebody's murdered, somebody's killed, somebody's child is harmed or kidnapped, and all these
It,
other things.
it happens. It happens even often, but we don't get highlights on it every few years because this is still happening every single day,
Every
and we know that.
every day. Absolutely. We live this experience every single day. We
Yeah.
don't get the just due or the attention that some other things happen, right? In 2020 with BLM, and people got mad and people started rioting and people started protesting. And but again, if you really go back and look over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, this happens every so often. And then everybody jumps on the bandwagon. They want to be a part of the conversation. They want to make sure that their organization is keeping up with the times. They want to check those boxes. We're diverse, we're inclusive. But here's my
Yeah.
question. Here's my question to them.
What's that?
All these organizations that jumped on the diversity and inclusivity and the equity bandwagon, where y'all at now? Where y'all at now? I know organizations that have in 2023 that have cut their diversity and inclusivity programming. I know organizations out there that have laid off entire HR departments that were focusing on diversity and inclusivity, right? So you can't tell me that this is a complete focus as a society. These murders are still happening. The conversations are still going. We're just not sensationalizing it as a nation like we were. We moved on. We moved on, right? Just like we've now moved on from COVID, but COVID's still happening. People are still
But the
testing.
conversations are still happening, though, Terry. I still hear people talking about it, but I don't see the movement like, okay, Black Lives Matter. It's like almost, I mean, they're still there, they're still making noise. But the height of Black Lives Matter during the pandemic, that has subsided by, I would say, 75%.
Yes.
I mean, I still get the emails, I still read it, I know where the demonstrations are. But I think the participation in Black Lives Matter has gone down tremendously.
Absolutely. It's for me, the way that I view it is we've moved on to the next hot topic.
What is the next? Well, where do we move on to in this idea of race? Where do you think we are now?
Mm, it's still a glaring issue.
Because trans women are the number one women that are being murdered in the United States. Trans women of color,
Of
if you want to
color.
get really like of color,
Yep.
are the number one group of people that are being murdered for who they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what world do we live in that we find it okay to murder someone because of
Who
like
they
in,
love,
in, in
who
2023,
they want to be.
2024, right? We are taking drastic steps backwards
Hmm.
into civil rights, into that time period, that we are now killing people because they're different. We fear what's different.
Yeah. And two, we talk about this all the time. I believe that even in this state of heightened murders and things that are happening, there is even more of a heightened state of being unapologetically Black, queer people out there in our jobs. It's happening. It's growing. So is this a backlash to us finding our voice and having the freedom to say, here I am, deal with me? And is America or whoever or whatever are just so afraid of this unique expression of who we are?
Well, I think we've unified more as well
Yeah.
as a Black LGBTQ queer people. We've unified a lot more. There are organizations that have sprung up. There's people that are bringing more awareness. There are famous people, right, with large platforms that are now
Mm.
starting to bring more awareness and educate and be an advocate for those that are being killed. And I think what's happened is people are getting, angrier and angrier. Stop talking about that. That's not us. That has nothing to do with us. That has nothing. I just started watching. Ooh, I'm gonna bring them up. I'm gonna bring them up.
Okay.
I just
Come
started
on.
watching
Come
a
on.
new show. Sometimes I do get caught up in a little reality TV. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
ooh,
I know.
child.
So I just started watching one where a very famous woman, because she was married to a very famous R&B artist, she recently said, just this last, so today Thursday, just last Thursday, they come on every Thursday night, just said that she didn't need to go to an event that one of the other women in the group were putting on because she didn't need to know about LGBTQ. That doesn't concern her, right? She got
Okay,
on these
which
pedestals.
Atlanta housewife was
No,
it?
no,
Come
no.
on. Come
It was
on. Come on. Call it
Showtime.
out. Call her
It,
in. Call her in.
the show was Bold and Bougie. Bold and
Oh,
Bougie.
bold and bougie.
But
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
newer show, and it is one of, again, one of the most, amazing artists, R&B artists. It's his ex-wife, and she looked, and I'm calling it again, I'm calling it out. She looked so unbelievably ridiculous as she talked about how she didn't need to know about those people. She didn't need to be blah, blah, blah. Mind you, she's in a group and her friend is LGBTQ as well. So she's putting on this event, this fundraiser. There's drag queens, there's performances. She's trying to invite all the women to come out and support. And they're in LA or Atlanta? Atlanta. They're in Atlanta.
I think Atlanta. Yeah.
They're in Atlanta, yeah. And so she's trying to say, listen, we need to support these people. We need to support our people. It's not these, it's not them, it's not, we're a part of the collective here, right? Because
But
all they're
is
doing
she real? But was she really believing what she was saying? Because I look back at like Trump saying some stuff that just to get shock value.
yeah,
Now,
that could be
is
it.
this the same thing? I mean, could it just be shock value? Could be great TV for her to say that?
100%. And this being a new show, obviously they're trying to, get their ratings out,
Yeah.
get their ratings up, right? So she very well could be saying it for shock value and trying to be relevant and trying to be, oh, I'm gonna be the bad girl, or people are gonna come at me because I'll still have ratings, right? People are gonna watch the show because of what I'm saying. It very much could have been that. However, she sat
Yeah.
in the room as she got some work done.
What gotta work?
She was
What
getting
gotta
some
work?
work done on her face. I'm just gonna leave it right there. She was
Ooh.
getting some work done on her face, and so she's sitting there with another woman, and this woman says, this woman is letting her have it a little bit in a very nice way. Kudos, to shout out to her. She's letting her have it. What you mean you don't? But you are cutting your knowledge, your power, your education off by saying that you don't need to be involved in support. I know what I need to know about the gay people, and they don't have anything to do with me, and I don't need that. Whatever they do is behind closed doors. This woman is letting her have it, right? And I
Right.
appreciate, respect that. Um, and this woman is telling her, I am LGBTQ, right? So for you to say you don't need to know about them, you don't need to support that, what you are saying and what I'm hearing is that you don't
Yeah.
need to support me. You don't need to
So,
know me as your
and
friend.
that brings us to that point of allyship, because when we're talking about the essence of diversity, inclusivity, equality, there has to be a sense of allyship. Are you seeing that right now? Because I see it in some places, but I realize that this mantle of equality cannot continue. We talked about this in our live panel. It can't be carried just by Black queer folk.
No,
It has to, everybody has to join in going, hello.
right, right.
You know, we also allyship. Are you seeing it? Do you feel it? And obviously, this I don't watch reality TV, and I will not be watching this one. But where is the allyship?
Yeah. I think allyship is so crucial
So important.
and vital to moving the needle forward.
Yeah.
Uh, when when we start talking about LGBTQ life agenda, it needs to be remembered that this is humanity at the end of the day,
Mm,
right? We're all humans.
mm,
That's our common denominator. We're humans. We may have some differences. Our skin color may look different. This might, one might have this genitalia versus that. None of that matters at the end of the day. From my perspective, we're human at the end of the
yeah.
day. And there is a
Yeah.
such thing called human kindness.
Hmm.
And we've gotten away from humanity, we've gotten away from kindness. So for me, allyship needs to continue to show up in a multitude of ways. Don't just be my ally when you know I'm throwing the fabulous party, right? And you want that ticket, you want to come and have a cocktail or meet me at the bar, right? Don't have that allyship in those moments. Have that allyship when we're protesting and standing for what is right.
Yeah. We,
Stand in solidarity with us.
because we're at a crossroads. I don't know. I hope our listeners are hearing this. We are now at a crossroads. We're either going to be on the right side of history or we're going to screw this all up.
Yes.
And this is the time because it's so in your face. It's like living here in America. It's like you're either on this side or you're on this side. You're going to stand for the rights of the marginalized community, or you're not, or you're. It really feels like it's in your face. But I also see that it is a time as we are in a crossroads to make a difference. So I love what we talk about in this article, the call to action.
Yes.
And one call to action, if you're listening to this and you just tuned in, number one, there's no mistakes or happenstance. You tuned in because you need to hear this. Educate yourself. Even if you're in our community and you're part of the whatever community you got to educate. Like I educate myself on so many different topics, so many different groups. What's happening in Gaza? Educate what's happening over in the Congo, what's happening over in Asia. All these things are happening, but you got to educate yourself. Educate. So when you hear that word DI, what does that mean? Do you know what that means? Do you know what diversity, equality, inclusivity truly means? And my whole thing is that you can't, diversity is only the start. See, everyone would say diversity. You could be diverse from me because you're different, you look different. But it doesn't mean you're going to invite me to the table to have dinner with you. That's not inclusivity. So if you're only saying diversity, that is only a quarter of what we're trying to do. We also want equality for everybody. We want to be included. But here's a story. I love what we talked about on our panel. I don't think we're asking to be even brought to the table anymore because we're building our own table. Like we're building our podcast right here. We're building our table.
100%. I think you have heard me say this a multitude of times in the last 4 months. Honey, I'm stopping asking for a seat at the table. I'm just going to build my own table and my own seats. And then you really going to be mad, right? Then you really going to be mad when we start empowering ourselves, when we start speaking up and speaking out for ourselves. You had mentioned a few moments ago about working with organizations and companies, and we see it where folks are, oh, we're diverse, we're inclusive, come work for us. But then once people are, their authentic selves, you don't want that level of diversity. You don't want that level of inclusivity. You don't want that level of equity.
That part right there.
Calling a spade a spade. Listen, that is what that's just the reality in the spaces that we live in. And we have to start speaking up. We have to start bringing things to.
Well, we're doing it. We're doing it. We have a column with SF. We have a column that we're talking about that. It's called of course, Grits and Glitter column that you can actually read about this article that we are talking about. Chaw, we have gone deep, heavy. Can we lighten this up a little bit with a little glitter?
Always here for the glitter, honey.
I know, because we want to make this podcast really, we want to inform you, we want to get down to the nitty gritty of why we're here, but we have a little bit of lightness to it as well. And this
We
is our
want y'all
segment. We
to
call
laugh. We want y'all to
the
laugh. Laughter is
oh
healing.
oh
Yeah.
we guests. We're gonna have guests on the podcast. We're gonna be bringing people in, great conversation all over the spectrum. But the glitter. This week we're talking about, well, tell me,
Theology.
what are we talking about?
Let's get into it. So there's two big glitterati, if you will,
Yeah.
things that I want to talk about.
Please.
So obviously, the Oscars have already happened, but
Yes,
we're gonna bring them up anyways. Did you watch the Oscars?
I did. And you caught me drinking water because this
That's
is
okay.
real.
That's
You just
okay.
got me drinking. I did.
Glad,
I'm a
Chad,
huge
glad.
Oscar. Coming from LA, I always watch the Oscars. And Oscar is a high holy day. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like what you wearing.
I was gonna say LA
Um,
shuts down. Like it's all about the
you know,
Oscars that whole
you
day. Yes.
know, it was amazing. I always loved the dress. I think this is probably one of the better dressed Oscars that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. There were some ones, as always, there were some missteps, but
Yeah,
I love that folks are, being bolder, they're being more lavish, they're being more, let us get glammed up and glitter, and then also, just be there as well, be their authentic selves, right? They're
yeah.
they're challenging what's the norm or the status quo. We see men that are dressing more, what's
There
the
was a lot of that.
misogyny,
It was
all these things.
amazing.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was really, really amazing. You
I
see
love
Laverne
having
Cox? You see Laverne Cox on the red carpet?
did that dress was gorgeous.
Oh my God, she was
Yes,
phenomenal. But
yes.
I mean, the bigger question that I think we've all been asking about, do the award show really tell the story of excellence? I mean, are we really seeing diversity and inclusivity in these award shows? And it's so funny because The Color Purple didn't get any love from the Oscars, got one nominee. I'm going, really? But then they swept the NAACP
I mean, of
Image
course,
Awards.
of course. We had to go to the Black Awards to get an award. Like, of course, take the
But
Black
it
group to the Black
it
Award.
really told the story. It just told the story. You're like going, and I love this version of The Color Purple. It was truly amazing. It was wonderful.
It was different. It was
Yeah,
different, right? And I think the
yeah,
cast and producers and Oprah were all saying, right, like, don't go into this movie saying, "Oh, this is a continuation," or it's going to be like the original. We cannot take anything away from that original.
oh, of
Right?
course not. The original got 10 nominations in the Oscars. And the
Yeah.
reason why I think it's good to really talk about the Oscars because that is the so-called pinnacle of the industry of the film industry. I
Absolutely.
went to film school. I went to NYU film school and I am still somewhat in the industry. I'm working on a couple of shorts right now, a couple of animated shorts. That's like my side gig. If I have any other time, I'm working with my writing partner that lives in LA. So we get on Zoom and, so you might be seeing a short coming out very soon. In fact, you will. And I believe it's very interesting that we can look at what the Oscars really can do though in inspiration because we began to look at the Oscars and my best friend, my writing partner, we looked at the Oscars and said, okay, we got to finish this script because not that is about getting an award, but it's about seeing the excellence of movies.
Absolutely. I think the more that we can continue to diversify
Yeah,
voices, whether it's women, whether it's Latino, whether it's
everybody.
everybody, like we have to continue to diversify. And I think people fear change.
Mm, mm, that part there.
People fear change. And I will say, for me and my perspective with the Oscars over the last few years, it definitely started to change. The Oscars to me got on the diversity and inclusivity bandwagon after 2020, right? It became over the top. I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2022. Like it was so women, women, black people, black people, black people. And I'm like, okay, right? Like we get it. You're having the conversations, which is fantastic, right? But everything didn't need to rest on diversity and inclusivity that year. It was so obvious,
It was so
right?
obvious in your face, uncomfortably obvious,
Absolutely,
uncomfortably
absolutely,
obvious.
absolutely. But this year, I went back. I didn't watch the live cast. I went back and watched the replay, and I like to fast forward through
I,
commercials.
you know.
Sometimes I just can't, y'all.
And some of the speeches too. Let's be real.
Right. I will say that there's a couple of folks that we want to acknowledge. Divine Joy Randolph. I didn't see the film.
Oh, I
Like,
saw it. I saw it.
amazing,
Amazing. The holdovers. Amazing. Must see.
absolutely amazing. Emma Stone. I haven't seen Poor Things either.
I could. Okay. Oops. Was that my outside voice? I started watching it on Hulu, and I just could not get through it. I'm like, and I'm sure it's whatever. I couldn't. I can't.
She
I
looked a
can't.
little funky, but I like that though.
I get. Did
That's
you really?
diversity. That's diversity. But yeah, I thought I did hear her speech, and I thought her speech was fantastic as well. I finally just this past weekend watched American Fiction.
Amazing.
It's a
Amazing.
little like, wait, what just happened at the end? I was like, this is the ending spoiler. If you ain't watched it, then turn your volume down. But for me, I was like, wait, this is how we're
Yeah.
like, okay. So that to me was a little odd, but I loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
I think the message of how many times that we're still buying into the stereotypical idea of blackness and it's just we'll have to come back to it once everyone has seen it. We'll come back and have a discussion on it, but it is such a deep I would say a commentary on just how we still hold onto these tropes that are still alive and well in the way we see people of color, even gay people. Sterling, what's his
Oh,
name?
Sterling K.
Yes,
Brown. Yes.
Sterling K. Brown. He plays a black gay man.
Right.
And just the idea and what do we see when we see a black gay man, and what are these tropes that we're still holding on to? That was a representation of these these mis ideas of gay black men.
Yes. Yes. And then the drugs that came into there.
I know it was
had-
like, woo,
Oh,
child, they really took him there.
oh,
Took him there.
right. I for me, the biggest speeches of the night, the Oscars, was definitely Divine's, and then
Oh,
Cord Jefferson.
yes.
Beautiful man, by the way. His speech was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And he comes out of the he's a reporter.
Yes.
He comes out of journalism. He's a journalist.
Yep.
And so all of his friends who are journalists, like people who know him for that, was so happy because they know that he's been writing, and he's been writing in writers' rooms in Hollywood for a long time to get his props.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, yeah, that saved the Oscars for me, because it was also #SoWhite. It still was #SoWhite for me, but it was beautiful to watch it, and it was exciting to see him get his award, and that was a wonderful,
Flowers.
wonderful.
Yep.
So,
we
do you
mentioned a
go
moment
go
ago.
go?
You mentioned a moment ago Color Purple, because I wanted to, a lot of people talked about who got snubbed. That's always a topic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The Oscars, the Grammys, etc. The Color Purple to me was definitely the biggest snub of the evening. Domingo, who not only played the heck out of Mr.
Coleman,
but also played
Rustin.
Coleman Domingo played Rustin, which was phenomenal.
I know Rustin,
Absolutely phenomenal. So,
but he did win Best Dress. He did win Best Dress of men and women. He showed up in the award season. Mr.
The
Coleman.
entire award season. He looked.
I used to work at a gym called Equinox in South Bay. I was the manager there, one of the gyms, and he used to be one of our people, one of our members, and the nicest man. He would come in, we would have conversation, and he's just down to earth, real people, so powerful, powerful. So I got to ask you, do you have your glitter cowboy hat ready?
Oh man, I didn't get one for Renaissance. I didn't see Renaissance. I mean, I watched the movie thing or whatever, and all the clips of Beyonce's touring, but
Yeah.
I didn't get the hat,
Did you not get the hat? Oh my goodness. Well, I said, something you might not know. I might have told you, but back in the day when I was a young little black gay boy,
child.
when I
Black,
graduated from
hey,
college, I went off to Europe and I was actually a part of a country western line dancing troupe. We traveled all over. I worked for CMT, Country Music TV, and we traveled all through Europe teaching country western line dancing. And one of my dance partners was Colin Farrell, the actor Colin Farrell. There's pictures online. If you go online and you look, you'll find Colin Farrell next to me in cowboy hats. So I do have a history with country western music. I love country western music. I'm not a huge. I mean, I have some people I love. I know, right? I see that face, y'all. You should see his face. You should see his face. Um, I love country western music. I really do.
so
I love it.
first and foremost, I am gobsmacked.
You're like, hold on, let's go back. Let's go back.
Whoa. First and foremost, that's amazing. Abs, kudos, kudos. This is what I love. And I knew this when I, first met you and we were having text conversations and trying to get together over lunches and all that. Like there was just this essence about you that screamed diversity to me.
Oh,
There were multiple facets to you, and I'm always inclined to be like, ooh, let me go and connect with that person. Like because
right,
it's learning for us, right? And you talked about learning and growing, even at whatever age people are, like you have to constantly, evolve. And that's what I feel. And, when I first met you. So to hear that there's this country background, child, yeah, child. And
which
with
brings us to how do you feel about Beyonce and country music?
listen, listen,
What do
listen.
you listen?
So first and foremost, I agree with you as well. I love country music. I primarily grew up in a white town, so she had to adapt to, country and
Yes,
alternative music, and it's just the reality chat.
right,
Um,
right,
I love country music as well. I've got my favorites. I wouldn't go so far as say that country line dancing is my thing. I danced in college too, but
right.
that's not necessarily my thing. But I can respect it. I can appreciate it. Like, do you boo boo? Um, but I say this about Miss B: the fact that Miss B continues
To
to
push it,
to reinvent herself every single album, the fact that she's challenging the norm in a crazy, 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 industry. Y'all mad? Why y'all mad? I wish I could do that meme right now. You mad?
well,
Mad?
we're recording this the night before it comes. It comes out tomorrow. Cowboy Carter, and the first two tracks for me, it's like, oh wow. I mean, is there something that she can't do? I
Yeah.
mean, and I love the flavor and the beats that she's putting underneath it, and it's a deep country feel to this, but yet it's still Beyonce, which
Well,
I
so like her
love.
mom said, she from Houston.
She's from
She from Houston.
Houston,
And she was around country music. Come on.
and she did from Lemonade. She did I think it's called Papa's,
Yes. Yes.
and she already was in, and she this is part of what she's always been a part of. But what's very interesting, not that she's doing a country album, but how people are losing their minds.
So here's what's funny. So here's what's real funny. So I watched
Yeah,
an interview on YouTube recently. I forgot about I think it was the Grammys, where she performed that country number
Mhm.
with Dixie Chicks.
Oh no, the Country Music Awards.
Country Music Awards. Right. Okay,
Yes,
my
people
bad, my bad.
lost their minds.
People got upset. And so I didn't realize at what level people got upset. And this interview that I watched on YouTube recently talked about like literally the timeline, what happened. Like it was one of the gals from the Dixie Chicks was being interviewed, and she said, "Listen, we felt so bad for Beyonce. Miss B called us to say I want to do this with y'all, and we were like, anytime Miss B calls, we're doing right."
Right,
So
right, right.
for them, it was an honor, but they got backlash. They were
Yeah.
kind of starting to get canceled, and obviously they got canceled for other reasons, but they were starting to get canceled because of the performance. Beyonce went through it, and I don't think majority of us realized what she got as a result of
Yeah.
that performance.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
fact that she's now circling back to that and a part of her roots, her upbringing, her childhood, right? Girl, you do you, boo boo. You do you, right?
I
Keep serving the children.
I am so incredibly excited to because I saw Renaissance and and she took this genre of house music that is so deeply ingrained in our LGBTQA community and beyond. But she took it and said, "Here, y'all, here's house music. Here it is." And she brought this, I guess, new crew of people into house music that didn't know, yeah, well, this is where it comes from. She's doing the same thing for country music, where people would not normally go to country music will now listen to country music. So what she's doing to bring exposure to all types of genre needs to have a huge shout out. Y'all go and get that album because I know it's gonna be out in a few hours. I know I'm gonna click. I'm gonna give me some Cowboy Carter.
Absolutely. That album is coming. I've got the first two singles as well.
I
In
do
fact,
too.
I'm listening to it this evening after a tennis match. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm here for it. The fact that you can continue
16
to,
carriages. Text
yeah,
them, hold them.
hold
Text
them.
them, hold them.
The fact that you can continue to just bring this level of like newness and excitement, that keeps people interested in you, right? And keeps her longevity there too.
It does. And so she's having people on there. I think she's going to be with, I think it's, oh my goodness, she has a tons of people that she's going to be working with on this album. I think one was Dolly Parton.
Yes.
She's going to be bringing Dolly Parton, doing so she's stacking it ready to go.
Right,
She's
right.
like, come
It's
on
also
now.
smart, right? Because is America and people going to be like going against Dolly Parton or all these other people? No, that's
No.
smart. That's strategic. Right. 100%. 100%.
Oh my goodness. So this is our final segment before we shut off because we've been doing a lot of talking. This is amazing. But we want to give a shout out to people we know that are making a difference that we want you to read about and see what they're doing. Who's making a difference in your eyes?
Oh, so one person who I absolutely adore as an actress and an advocate, and then she started singing several years back and some live television performances. Although, it was brought to attention, she's actually sang in one of her very first major motion picture film, but we all kind of forgot about that. And she is making a difference.
Hustle and flow, baby. Hustle and flow. Hustle and flow.
You know where I'm
Hustle and
going.
flow.
Absolutely. So I want to bring a shout out and flowers to the amazing Taraji P. Henson. She is my making a difference person for me right now. There was a lot of controversy with The Color Purple and her stance on equal pay for women and everything that she went through during that during the process and during the touring and promotions of the film and things like that. A lot of people also say that the reason why Color Purple didn't do well at the Oscars is because the focus was on equal pay. Now,
Yeah.
I kind of agree, right? Like when you've got a film out and you're supposed to be promoting the film, you want everything to be on that film, not having any kind of negativity or negative connotations. But what I will say from a girl is kudos to you for not allowing time to go by, for bringing attention and awareness to this. But I also want to say she's not the only one. She's not the only one. You know, there's a lot of controversy with this person, but Monique said this 10, 15 years ago. And then she got blackballed from
She got
Hollywood.
blackballed too.
Got
Yes, she did.
blackballed,
know.
as a result of this equal pay discussion. So I say to Taraji, I say to Moni, keep making a difference, keep standing for what is right, because the more that we have folks like them with the big platforms that they have, with the followers, the support, the more that we get those types of folks to bring awareness and bring up these conversations, the more that we move that needle, because it becomes commonplace. It's not just an anomaly, right? So that's my making a difference person. I love her,
and I also think,
see what will happen. I'm curious to see
but I
what will
also
happen with
think
her.
this is very important that you said this. I think it's very important that people understand that. Don't be afraid to speak up for what you feel is right. Now, there might be a backlash,
Yes.
and we prepare ourselves for it because it's just the history of what we've always experienced. But it still needs to be said.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely agree. What about you?
So mine is going. I mean, I've always loved GLAAD. I've always loved the GLAAD organization, and they just recently had the GLAAD Media Awards. It's 35th GLAAD, 35 years of GLAAD Media, and they honored Oprah Winfrey with the Icon Award, and she paid tribute to her late brother who passed away from AIDS. And so my person is making a difference. It's always been Oprah. I love me some Oprah, but GLAAD and Oprah together. And I believe that this is still something that we are still dealing with. And there's still not a cure that is available to everyone. But to be able to say, I'm paying homage to my brother or tribute to my brother, and I'm here standing with you, that's incredible allyship.
Absolutely.
And people at that, not everyone at that status that wants to be at that place would stand up and going, I'm going to be an ally. I'm going to fight here. I'm going to show that I'm still in it. And she said that our own network will continue to tell stories of the LGBTQA experience. And when she said that, I just, tears started to like, oh my goodness. And what does that say to little Black boys and little, little Black girls, little queer boys and queer girls, that there is a space for you if you are an artist. So shout out to GLAAD, shout out to Oprah Winfrey, and it's on YouTube because I love me some YouTube too.
I'll have to go check it out. I didn't watch the awards this year. I've actually attended a couple of those dinners years ago, the awards night. So met Marley Matlin one time. Like, oh, that was amazing. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
Did you know that? Do you remember the National Coming Out Day? And I think it still happens on October 11th. Remember, it still happens. That was actually spearheaded by Oprah.
Yes.
That was pushed by Oprah. And she spoke about that in her acceptance speech, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So
Right,
that's it. We got it. So
watch it
what are you looking forward to? And we can close out with this. What are you looking forward to in this next episodes of this podcast? What's on your heart to talk about? What are we going to be talking about?
Listen, we don't want to keep the people for another 20 minutes, so I'll try to.
I know, but we got to keep it short. We'll go lasered on this one. Go lasered.
I'll try to make it quick. For me, I am over the moon excited that we're doing this podcast. This is my first podcast. I've been interviewed on them, a bunch of times, but this is my, first official episode, of the podcast. And I'm just beaming with so much excitement and energy to continue doing what I've been doing for the past, especially the last 5 years of my life, which is providing safe spaces to amplify Black LGBTQ voices, to uplift a community that is continuously marginalized and pushed to the side and, treated like a second-class citizen, etc. And then continue to impact in a way that, and I think that's what our podcast will do as well. It will continue to impact in a way that people say they are, but aren't really getting into the weeds of things and getting into the community and meeting the community where they are. That's what I'm excited about. And I can't wait till we have some guests. We already got some in mind.
It's coming up.
Lined up. So I'm excited for all of that.
It's all coming up. I think part of this journey with you is developing this Grits and Glitter podcast brand and column, because part of this is looking at this is that life is full of the grits and it's full of the glitter. It's a totality of what we're here to talk about. So we're going to have so many different topics and so many different guests on here, and this is the beginning of something good. So I got to tell everyone who's listening to this, make sure you share it with people. Make sure you leave a comment at wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen. Make sure you let people know. And I got to say this one more time, repeat, this podcast is not just for Black queer folks. It is from a Black queer perspective that everyone needs to have the conversation. So we're going to have straight people on here. Yeah, we're going to have like everybody on here just talking about this experience. I am so excited.
Yeah, me too. And I want to give a shout out to those in the last couple of months that have really pushed us and say, y'all can
to get it out there.
Right?
You get it out there.
Y'all are doing some good work. Our town halls that we've had in South Florida, as well as San Francisco and California, thank you all, for continuing to support and encourage us. Out SFL,
yes,
for us. I want to shout out those and Justin and Jason and their teams for really providing a platform for us as well with the column and to amplify Black LGBTQ voices in their publication. So shout out to all those folks.
Yeah, and make sure you follow the column. Make sure you get the column and listen to it, and or actually listen to it, and read it, because it's going to be some great articles. This will be our third article coming out on out, and you can get it online, and we'll put this in the program notes as well, where you can click directly to our articles. Also, make sure you follow us on social media. We are the Grits and Glitter, Grits with a Z, and Glitter, the podcast. So you can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. We are we're everywhere. We're not on TikTok yet, but we are on LinkedIn. Are we on LinkedIn yet? Did you put us on LinkedIn yet?
Us on LinkedIn. We on LinkedIn, y'all.
Okay, it's up. So we doing that. Also, where can people follow you, Terry Dyer, on the socials?
Oh, that's easy. Facebook is Terry Dyer. Instagram is Terry D Sings. I think you mentioned that earlier. She got
yes, she does.
Little ports. Follow me on Instagram at Terry D Sings as well.
Right on. And you can follow me at Rev Skip Jennings on all the socials. I said, a year ago, Terry, I said I would never do TikTok. I'm ticking and talking now.
You are.
So Rev Skip Jennings on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And we have our own social media, so make sure you follow all this and get some good loving in there. Get some good grits and some good glitter. And just to let you know, Terry does not like grits. Don't tell nobody. All right, y'all, until next time, we are just so grateful. We bless you, and we just tell you to be kind to people, love people. All right, we'll see you soon.